G'day and welcome back to another video. I guess I'm calling this part 2 of the Project Ultima build, mainly because it's going to be very long if I just make one big part 2. So although it's not finished, I wanted to show you all the steps I went through to make the like the carbon shock towers, and oh, there's a bit of a wing over there, servo mounts, and there's some spacers which probably should show you because I've made the track a little bit wider. I hope you can see those spacers in there, basically to use the outer end of the shaft mount there. Not sure what you call it. Anyway, so we'll get on with the video and you can see the steps I went through to get where it is so far. Alright, so some of the custom parts are the little adapter I made to put the Ultima motor guard on, and then we've got the servo mounts because the original ones were split, and we needed a longer body mount for the Triumph body, and we needed a new front brace because the Triumph body is narrow at the front, and we got some shock towers and the bits for the motor guard, and also some spacers for the rear arms. On top of all that, we've also got some wing washers and some new sides for the wing. So getting onto the servo mounts, I just cut them out of a piece of aluminium bar and naturally drilled them and tapped the holes out so we can put some screws in. From memory, I think I used like a 2.5mm drill or something and a 3mm tap. And a bit of Tamiya oil there to keep things lubricated. After that, did some final shaping and a bit of sanding, and that's how they are. And then we moved on to the motor guard little spacers and the plate on the side. So I didn't have any round aluminium, so again I cut them out of the rectangle bar. So basically I cut them into one piece and then cut that piece into two. Then drilled both of them down the centre. They need a hole in the centre anyway, but it also helps to make them round, and you'll see this in a sec. And after drilling down the centre, I could stick them onto this bit of 3mm threaded rod with a couple of nuts on each end to keep them still, and put it in the Dremel, turn the Dremel on and run it over the file just to make it all round. Yeah, it's looking pretty round. So then I gave it a little bit of a sand, just ran some sandpaper over it while the Dremel's running. Then I needed to make that little recess on each end where it sort of slips into the side of the gearbox. So again, I spin it up in the Dremel and just filed it down. As you can see here, the two parts separated in the middle, so I had to take them off the little spindle I made and do them separately. And here we go. Cutting a little recess. This will be much better with a lathe, of course, but yeah, that's more dollars. And from there, just gave it a final sand and took that one off and did the other one. And that's how they look. Then from there I got onto the motor guard plate. So I started off with a 2.4mm cutter, and the round one there is the, I think it's 2.8mm. That's what I used for making the holes bigger where I needed to put screws in. Doing it the way I am, it's not 100% accurate anyway, so they're near enough to 3mm. So I just start off with the 2.4mm cutter, using it like a drill. Go through very gently so you don't, tear out the carbon on the back. And then from there I can go and put the round, the ball type cutter in and make the holes a little bit bigger for the screws. Now the holes are all made for the screws, so now we can get on to cutting the actual shape out. So I'll change the cutter back to the straight cutter and set the height on the Dremel drill stand. And again, very carefully ease into it so you don't rip all the edge of the carbon. And just follow your line. I actually go quite a bit wider than the line, and then I'll just sand up the edges later. So here I started to cut out the circular shape in the bottom of it. I didn't bother in the end, it wasn't going very well because I was having trouble seeing through all that carbon. So anyway, I took the tape off just to have a look, make sure none of the edges are ripped up or anything. And as you can see, the cutout in the bottom is very dodgy looking. So I just put the round sanding stone in and cleaned up all the edges with that. And then I put it on a file, just rub it back and forward on there just to make the edges nice and straight. It's looking pretty good. So then I marked a little the edges there where I want the circular cutout to be, and cut it out using the round sanding stone. And that's looking much better. So from there I cleaned up the edges on a bit of sandpaper, made sure they were smooth and straight. And that's pretty much it for now for that one. That's done. That's the other side. And so there's our little spacers and our plate. Then I moved on to the shock towers. I did them much the same way, same tools and same way of doing it, and what a mess. A lot of vacuuming after this. And if you're doing this at home, of course, you wear a mask and all that other great stuff. So I sanded them up and basically hit them with some 2-pack clear. And it was great. As soon as the 2-pack hits them, they're shiny already. Aren't they pretty? That front brace you see there, I don't end up using that. That'll fit an original Ultima Pro, but it won't fit the one that I'm using with the Triumph body because it's so narrow at the front. So that was really a waste of time making that, but maybe I'll put it on an Ultima Pro later. But yeah, so that's them after 3 coats, looking very nice. Now onto the front brace, which I just mentioned. Needed to be narrower for the Triumph body. So anyway, I wanted it to look a bit special, so I cut this little K out of brass and dremeled the center out a little bit. Then on the front brace I dremeled out the K shape and put some black paint in there just to make it fully black behind and not carbon. So from there I epoxied that little beast into the recess, and after that I went and covered it in epoxy resin. Now this is a 2-pack epoxy clear casting resin. My problem here is it's a doming type, which I didn't notice, so it kind of makes a dome on top when it settles, which is no good for the bolt holes and stuff, so I had to sand it all smooth and flat so I could screw it all down flat without the screw heads looking all weird. But I think it came up looking pretty good. Now, so I could fit the motor guard off a 2016 Optima, I made this little bracket out of aluminium angle, so it fits under the rear axle stopper like the original Ultima. So all I had to do here was cut and shape it, and then drill and tap a couple of holes. Keep in mind the Ultima hadn't been re-released when I made this, otherwise I could have used one of them. After that I went and got some 1mm carbon and cut some new sides for the wing. They're rather large. And then I also cut out some wing washers to stop the body getting scratched up from the body clips. Alrighty, so that's about it. Yeah, the next video, which should be out in a couple of days, I'm still waiting for the bolts that go through the centre of the gearbox. Once they're in, you know, I'll put the body on, call it done. The body's all painted and stuff, but I'll leave that for the next video. So there'll be a part 3 in a couple of days. Alright, thanks for watching.